Don't do that to me. So I'll get stage
fright. Who are you? Come on.
Right, so...
You've got to tell them who you are first.
Okay, right. If you watched our other video, you know that I'm Sarah and this is my husband Steve. He's much older than me, but and I'm the brains of the bunch. However, joking aside,
get to the point, come on.
Right, we made the decision in 2019 to buy an abandoned village in Portugal. It also comes with how many acres?
3 hectares, 7 acres.
7 acres of land, which we are regenerating following the principles of permaculture. So today's video is just a brief walk through the land, even though Steve says I talk too much and the builder is making a lot of noise in the background.
It's good.
So
we like that.
The first thing that we did when we got here was took some advice from a friend who had spent 2 days battling to save his farm in fires in 2017. He said if you buy a village at the top of a valley that's full of eucalyptus, cut down as many as possible so you have a fire break. So the first thing we did was cut down about 1 million eucalyptus trees.
Felt like it.
It felt like about 1 million eucalyptus trees. We then got the bulldozer in because some things you just cannot do without a bulldozer. So he levelled off this section so we've got parking, and then on the east side, which is this side, we got the bulldozer to create 3 levels of terracing, which would have been the original terracing, but when we got here they were about 4 meters high in brambles and eucalyptus, and it was just
a mess, wasn't it?
It was an absolute excuse me, mess. We've still got about 300 eucalyptus down there to cut down. We got caught in the middle of a massive forest fire last year, but we'll do another video on that. We haven't done much work on the east side because we've been hard at work on the west side. Our village is on a public highway. This is the public highway that runs through the village. And we are going to do the next video, we're going to show you around the village and the houses and talk about our plans for them. But what is worth noting today is a very exciting day because work has started on the first building, and although he's quite noisy, there is a lovely man up there putting a roof.
He works hard, doesn't he? He does some hours. He's
putting a roof on a house that's never had a roof since we've been here, so it's quite a big day for us. But we'll do a separate one about the village.
Okay, so one of the first things we did, it was a little project, one of the designs of my diploma, was to start harvesting some water. So we got these IBC tanks, they're 1,000 litres each, and they're collecting rain off this roof here, all connected up, so they fill straight from the roof. They're currently full to the top pretty much. So there's 4,000 litres here.
Because we've had about 6 months non-stop rain.
It's rained, hasn't it? And what we did was we dug a pipe under the road, and the pipe comes out over there somewhere. It connects up down to the next set of tanks as well, but then it also connects to individual taps that are placed conveniently for where we want to water the plants.
That's our rainwater harvesting system.
Yeah.
So Steve built some planters up here, so we've got some herbs and stuff going in there. Our local little scouts, they come up and they do things for us like build bird boxes, which we'll show you, there's some in the trees, but they created a little herb and flower garden for us. We had a really funny afternoon with them. So we've sort of made some flower beds up here, and the reason I'm stopping at this point is that basically Chumbaria is just clay, sand and rocks, and in permaculture one of the principles is turn the problem into the solution, Hence, we have turned all the rocks into borders and steps. If you look here, you can see the land as it really is, and this is what we've been overcoming with our permaculture methods, which you'll see when we get down to the vegetables. So yeah, we've turned the problem into the solution when it comes to the head rush of Chumbaria.
Indeed.
Aren't you? Yeah, be careful. Yeah. Noodle! No, I'm not having you out on camera if you're going to fight. Oh, I didn't know you'd let us go.
And you?
I've done enough talking.
So we've got 3 terraces here that we're using at the moment. So this is the first one. Yeah, so we're trying to develop the garden to grow as much food as possible. I'm not so good at that yet. We've not really done much gardening before. Sarah grew some plants in England, mostly flowers. And we had a couple of unsuccessful tomato years, a bit like a lot of people in England. So this was our first real stab at actual gardening for food. So it's been a massive learning process, and what we've been doing mostly with regards to the permaculture ethics and principles is observe and interact. So observing the garden, learning what grows, what doesn't grow, what things we like when we've grown them, our favourite tomatoes, the ones we don't like, all that sort of stuff.
Well, considering last year we had 14 different varieties of tomatoes, it was inevitable we weren't going to like some of them.
Yeah.
But we did like a lot of them.
Oh, they were amazing.
We had a lot of bloody tomatoes last year.
Quite a few chilies.
We had a lot of different things. The list of what we've grown here is pretty
big.
Yeah,
so we can go through what we're growing now. We've started to reuse some of the old tiles that came off one of the buildings that we had to knock down because of its poor condition. And so the tiles here now, they help to keep a lot of the moisture in. They enable us to build some depth onto the soil. So as we build the compost and the soil up here, it's straight onto sand, clay, rocks.
Basically.
Yeah, so it's not a very good growing substrate, but this is building up on it a lot. And this, we're using the no-dig process.
We didn't start with the no-dig process, and we nearly killed ourselves, didn't we? Digging.
Yeah, I tried to dig out, turn the soil over in there and remove the stones, and after about 2 hours I just ended up with a huge hole and a pile of rocks, which was, I was thinking, how do we grow anything here? But all you do is you put some cardboard on the floor, you put the compost on top of that. If you want to put some walls up round it or some raised bed timber around it, that's fine. But what it does is the cardboard blocks out all the weeds. It rots gradually. By the time it's rotted, the weeds underneath have given up, and you've got a lot of, you're starting to build the compost, and the things that you're growing go down into the ground. That's the theory, and so that helps production of the plants. So we should get more plants out of it. We planted this banana plant a year ago, and it was about this big. It was this big last year, and now all of this has come from the one plant in this bed. So it's doing pretty well. This is going to be our tea garden. We've got some chamomile, angelica, wormwood, and a few other bits and pieces, bolder over there, and we'll be able to dry this and make tea out of it. Nice.
You have to say it's nice because you're on camera.
You taste it.
I don't want to taste it.
Okay.
I like tea. So obviously it's Portugal, it gets really hot in the summer, so we've created a pergola here. We've got some vines growing up, and this will give us an area, a shaded area to have lunch or to do seed pottings and cuttings and all sorts of
seed pottings
and cuttings. I'm talking a load of rubbish.
So what we did was we put the posts in to create the frame. These are all old eucalyptus that we cut down from the land. They probably won't last long, they'll probably rot right out at the bottom, but hey, We put the floor in and then we put the roof on, and the next plan is to build a
table and chairs.
A nice big dining table to seat 10 or something in here.
Yep.
And we've got passion fruit, grapes, two different varieties of grape growing here. They're growing like crazy. Look, have you seen that?
And we've got somebody who keeps scuppering our plans, namely Stanley, whose favourite place of rest is in the beds. So we're starting to have to fence them off. But we're moving Stanley to Stanley's Woods along with the chickens.
Here he comes.
Here he comes, because otherwise he's just a nightmare. He's like Devastation Derby, aren't you?
He was making a nice bed in there. We just planted a load of sweet potatoes, and then the next thing he did was dig it all up and make a nice bed in there. So we put a little fence around it.
So we've got 3 little lovely well-behaved dogs and one great big horrible horse dog who's intent on destroying everything in his path. As you can see from our rainwater harvesting collection, Steve's just started putting in the irrigation system. In the summer, watering is so time consuming that we are learning that we need more irrigation systems, because otherwise we're just out here for hours, aren't we?
Yep, takes a lot of time. So this just springs into life twice a day for a couple of minutes and waters all this stuff.
Pella!
We've planted a few little trees along here. It's a nice shelter, well, a little bit more sheltered here. So we've got an avocado that just went in recently. I thought it had died, but it's starting to produce some leaves at the top, so that's a good thing. We've got some fruit trees here, which in England I'd never heard of them. So this one's an arasa, which is like a guava, like a baby guava tree. They're not really guavas, but they're a little fruit that I'd never seen anywhere in the world before. So really, really tasty little fruit on this lovely tree, and they're just starting to come into flower. So that's really happy. I'm really happy about that. Lots should have some fruit off this year. That'd be great. Okay, this little tree is a feijoa, or it's like a bean tree. I don't know if there's an English name for it. I'd never seen these fruit anywhere, never even seen them in Portugal, but they're a beautiful green, weird looking green thing, sort of like a fig, but not really, only in that an apple is like a pear.
So often we'll have our local scout group. They come up here, and the bigger scouts make things, and then the little baby scouts, what they're called, cubs. They come and they paint things. So we put
themselves
up
mostly
themselves. So we've got little bird boxes that they made. There's one up there, there's one over there, there's another one over there. But I also wanted to point out that if you have a look over on the trees, Steve made a load. Oh, there's another one up there. Bat boxes. We do get a lot of bats up here in the summer months, but we're not sure if they have actually nested in the boxes, because once you put them up, you can't touch them again. But
it's against the law.
Is it against the law?
Yeah.
Why is it against the law?
Because you're not allowed to interfere with bats.
But surely building a house for it is interfering with it.
No. Once you've nailed it up, that's it. You're not allowed to touch it again.
Okay. Well, anyway, we've got bird boxes and we've got bat boxes.
Bat boxes and bird boxes.
That we're never allowed to touch ever again, so we'll never know whether there's any bats in them or not.
Well, you'll see loads of poo.
Well, I thought you said that you would see like the nail scrapings, and I thought.
You might do, yeah.
Well, I thought I
also
could see.
Poo.
It always comes back to poo, doesn't it? Anyway, we've got bat boxes and we've got bird boxes. So we're really going on that biodiversity, because the eucalyptus is just like a monoculture.
Yeah.
Nothing else can grow. It sucks up all the water. There's no birds, there's no insects, there's no bats. There's nothing.
But this is going to flower, have you noticed that?
Yeah, but they're coming out because I don't like them.
No, they're not.
I hate them. Come on, Stanley. Come on. Stanley. Stanley, get out. Stanley. Get out. Get out. Yeah, we'll buzz through the next two really quick. God, he's so rude. So this is known as Terrace 2. This was pretty decimated by the fire, but then we've had a lot of rain, so things have grown back. And this is where the chickens are, but the chickens are moving over into the section of land over there, which is where they're going to live with Stanley, so that he can't, as he is right this minute, lying in one of my flower beds.
And why are they going over there?
And they're going over there because they need more freedom, and we're going to make a chicken tractor, which means they can move around, and they will then obviously fertilise the land with their droppings. And basically, it's a bit grim in here, isn't it, for them? So we're giving the chickens a bit more freedom. What's growing in here?
In this little 9-sided bed we've got some parsnips, and we've got some, there's some French beans just been planted in there, lovely little plants. But I made this a little bit deeper so that we could grow things like carrots and parsnips, because the soil is very shallow. Yeah.
So Steve, being very clever and very handy, built our hen house. He built it out of pallet wood. And
All pallet wood, even the little tiles, we cut those by hand, didn't we?
Yep. And it's quite cute, and the chickens seem to like it. We've got a new chicken that she's on the perch over there. She was just walking through the village one day. I don't know where she came from, but the
neighbours over there.
But the other chickens don't like her, so she's stuck on that perch. So it's a bit of a question. She either stays on the perch or we let her out and she'll get eaten by something.
Fox, mongoose.
But she's looking quite healthy. She just doesn't come down because the others don't like her.
Come on.
Go.
You can check for some eggs. Yeah. So
Yes.
this is the strawberry bed. It's doing really well. Needs a bit of a weed, but we made the frame out of the timber that we recovered from the house that we knocked down, that was half knocked down anyway. So we're just reusing everything we can rather than buying new timber, and it's holding out really well despite the dogs clambering all over it all the time.
This is where we learnt the no dig method was a lot easier, because this just nearly killed us doing these ones.
Yeah, this underneath this is solid clay and rocks, so we've put the cardboard down and then compost and soil on top, so we're building soil. This is like two years now and we've got to this depth, so we're doing really well. And in there we've got potatoes, there's chard growing over there. On the first one we've got a load of peas and sweet potatoes. Down the far end we've got a mixture of Asian greens, so we're doing pretty well and it's all growing fantastically well. And down there we've got our little compost cathedral, Mark II, which is the second one we built because the first one got totally wiped out in the fire. So we've got three bays here. A big one, middle and smaller. So as the compost reduces in size as it decomposes, it will fit into the next bay quite easily. So we just chuck everything in there, and then what we tend to do here is lasagna composting. So we put a layer of green and then a layer of brown, another layer of green, brown, green, brown until it's full to the top. At least a cubic metre, probably look more like 1.5 meters. And then that'll get really hot, probably 70 centigrade. Too hot to touch. That hopefully kills the seeds, and then it speeds up the decomposing process, and then what we get is a really beautiful compost really quick, probably 3 months. So it works really well.
And we're going to build another composting bay on the next terrace, because compost is the key to everything around here because of the state of the actual land that we're on. What are you eating now?
This is a mustard plant.
You're always eating, aren't you?
Asian greens. Taste that.
No, I don't want to.
Go on, you should.
Well, I'm not going to.
It's really spicy.
Yeah,
really
that's why
spicy.
I'm not going to.
What do you think of that, James?
I like it.
Vermicompost, a whole new topic. So what happened here was I bought some red wrigglers through a person in Portugal. They came through the post, a little bag of worms. Started to chuck all the kitchen waste in here along with a bit of compost, and it was full to the top, doing really well. We had the fire, and this bath ended up back on the floor. The whole frame had burnt out. All the worms had been killed. We'd lost the whole population, apart from that. Just before that, I'd given a bag full of these worms to a very dear friend of ours, Yana, and she grew her load on. She then gave me a bag back, so now I've got more worms in here, and happily they're related to the first worms we started with. Loads of worms and some babies in there as well, baby worms. So that's great. And what these produce is the most fabulous compost. I mean, that's great compost. Look at that, beautiful. Great for water retention, full of bacteria. The plants love it. And they get rid of all this stuff for us. There's nothing in here for you, Noodle.
Yeah.
What's she doing? What are you doing? Weeding?
I'm weeding standing.
Oh, okay. We planted about 20-30 trees recently around here. We've sort of reined back our idea of producing a massive, great big food forest. We were, in hindsight, we were over ambitious. If we hadn't had a massive forest fire, we wouldn't have been ambitious. It would have been just fine. But we've now decided to plant the trees closer to the house, where we can water them, where if we need to protect them, we can.
So what I just wanted to say is we own the land all the way down here, all the way along, and that's where Steve had originally planted the food forest, but the fire wiped out everything. So we're going to rethink this whole area down here, and potentially it might become a paddock for some rescue donkeys or some pigs or some goats or something or other. But we've got a lot of trees down at this bit. These are the original pine trees that were here. One of the original owners collected resin. He was renowned for it. He was an entrepreneur when it came to resin collecting. So these are really old, these pine trees, and they just all went up in flames. So it was a bit devastating because Steve had planted about 150 trees and they all went, didn't they?
They did, yeah. It was a bit...
It was, yeah. But we will...
It's a bit rough, wasn't it?
It was a bit of a rough time. But we've bounced back.
Hello.
And we've repaired... This is known as Terrace 3. And we've repaired all the raised beds here, and Steve will explain what we've grown.
So I think it was 2 years ago. I think it is almost exactly 2 years ago. I planted some asparagus seeds, and so this is year 2. We're still not eating them. We need the roots to develop further, but they're absolutely fabulous. They're doing so well. I can't quite believe it. Next year we'll be able to start eating some asparagus and make some lovely omelettes with our eggs. So here's some lovely asparagus here, the tips. And if you didn't know, what happens next to these is they get taller and taller, and then they split like this, and then they grow into these big ferns, and some of them will flower and produce seeds. So I've collected loads of seeds from these, which I'll then plant again this summer, or in a month or so. Plant more asparagus seeds, and then we can start more plants going and just keep going. But these should produce asparagus for 20 years, I suppose. So like broad beans, I suppose.
You don't have to go into too much detail.
Well, I just said 4 words.
I know, but that's 4 words.
Lovely wild strawberries. Have you tasted these yet, Sarah?
No, I haven't.
No, well, you're not going to.
Because there isn't any there.
Yeah, there are. Look.
Look, Bella's getting bad habits from Stanley.
There's a wild strawberry.
Oh,
Look.
it's not very big though, is it? Every time I see you, you're eating.
Wow. You should try one day.
Well, let me try one then.
You won't like them.
Oh, here he comes.
Yeah.
Try a wild strawberry, Stanley.
Beautiful, aren't they?
No. They're really bitter.
It's just wasted on her.
I thought wild strawberries would be like nice and sweet. And did you give me a bad one on purpose?
No.
I bet you did. How come you get the nice one and I got like the squishy horrible one? So, Stanley! But
Sharp.
they're not
Beautiful.
very nice, are they?
I quite like it.
Dogs are not really great for organic farming.
These are vegetable beds, not dog beds.
So Pella,
Not dog beds.
Stanley, not dog beds.
These are the two. These domesticated animals seem to manage it.
Yeah, these two seem to be okay, but these two don't seem to get the concept of not going in the vegetable beds.
At least Stanley hasn't spotted my strawberries yet.
Stanley.
We've got some comfrey there. We've just planted some basil. We grow a lot of basil here because we like to make our own pesto. So we cut loads of it and make a load of pesto. Really great. Then we've got some onions there.
Got some lettuces.
Oak leaf lettuces, to be precise. What colour onions?
Those are red onions.
They are red onions, yeah. What else do you really like here that grows really well?
I know, believe it or not, one of the nicest things that we grow, not those strawberries because they were disgusting, but that cabbage. We've had the most amazing, that one's not very big, but we've grown some really lovely cabbage this winter.
It might sound weird so that people might get excited over a cabbage, but
it was really
the
nice.
flavour, it's like you think, well, this should taste nice because it's from the garden. And then you think, actually, that just tastes incredible.
Yeah, it was really nice.
Even you enjoyed it, didn't you?
Even I enjoyed it. I'm not eating them bloody wild strawberries.
Well,
anymore.
good. There's more for me and Stanley. Oh, I can see another caterpillar down there.
I think it's also worth saying that like we're in our late 50s. Well, Steve's 60 in in a month. I'm much younger than him, but we're not like super people. We do have a lot of volunteers that come up here, and we have volunteers throughout the summer months. And I think last year we had like 39 volunteers from all over the world. Not at the same time, obviously, because that would have been a bit busy.
We've
especially
only got one loo.
because we've only got one bathroom. But especially after the fire, all of these beds were completely just burnt and. Yep. And so just, I don't want people to think like we're superhuman and that we've done all this on our own, because we haven't, because we've had a lot of help along the way from some really lovely people. In fact, our first volunteer of the year, Caroline, she left yesterday. She was from California. She was with us for a month, and she was just really great. And then we've got Justin arriving tomorrow.
Come on then.
Come on. Next time we do an update on the land, there'll be a lot more stuff. There's stuff ready to get started to get planted, and by the summer, it will look completely different down here. It's just an abundance of food. It's amazing what such a small space can produce, and even if I think Steve and I could probably live off just one
onion.
Not one onion, you idiot, but
I didn't know what you were going to say. One what?
Well, we could probably live off one bed.
You reckon quarter of an acre?
That's not a quarter of an acre.
Come on, you do.
Right. When it gets to the point that Steve's calling me an idiot, I know that it's time to head up for a glass of wine.
You're not an idiot. What are these? Come on, look at these. Look.
These beans.
Doing well. Look at this.
We grow a lot of beans. We like beans. Look, have you got a bean?
Yeah.
Oh, I've got a bean as well. Actually, they're quite good, aren't they?
Right, come on.
Sakes.
Look at these, look.
Don't mind the beans so much. Alright, I'm going to do the taste test. Oh. Right.
They taste alright and they've got a horrible aftertaste because they've got skin on.
Why did you make me eat it then? I do enjoy our own produce. Really, I do.
You kind of got a dry, weird sort of thing, but they broad bean.
They're quite nice, but the skin's a bit hard.
Need cooking, don't they?
I bet when they cook, but actually they are quite nice.
They're good beans.
I don't like those strawberries. Right, come on, Stanley. Come on, Stanley. So what's the point of this video?
What's the point of this video? This whole video. Well, we just wanted to show you guys what we've been up to and what the land actually looks like on the ground. If you visit us, what you're likely to expect and get involved in, and what you might end up doing as a chore. There's always plenty of weeds here, aren't there?
There always is, yep.
But yeah, we've tried to keep the garden fairly compact, so we're not walking miles between separate parts of it, and also you save money on hose pipes if you keep it all together.
Yep. And we've, you know, we had never been to Portugal before 2018. We'd never heard of permaculture, and we really make it up as we go along. We try and stick to the main ethics, but we kind of make it up as we go along. But the thing that always, for me, is turning the problem into the solution, and in particular the fire was a terrible, terrible problem, but the solution is that it's cleared even more eucalyptus. Our neighbours have cleared even more eucalyptus, and where we've cleared bloody eucalyptus, the land's regenerating itself, and it's green and it's lush.